you can actually see if you have the same number of transients when you look outside the Earth's shadow or when you look inside the Earth's shadow, because all the time the Earth casts a shadow. It's like a cone. And the further you are from the Earth, the narrower is this shadow. So my hypothesis was that there were these transients came from solar reflections at 42,164 kilometers from the Earth or somewhere there around. And one of the ways how you can check it is to see, are there more transients inside where you know the Earth's shadow is at a certain time, or is it like fewer transients? And of course, for every transient, we have the coordinate, and we also have the time of the observation. So you can calculate, is it inside the Earth's shadow or not? And if it would be plate defects, you would have no deficit.
Yeah.
If it's 100% solar reflections, you will have 0 transients there.
Yes.
And if you have that a part of them are real and a part of them are plate defects, then you will have a deficit. And you can basically estimate how big fraction of your objects that seem to be authentic. Of course, what do? We test this.
Yes.
Because we have this code from a guy called Guy Neer. So it's a public code. And then we have the transient sample from my colleague at the Spanish Virtual Observatory. So it's quite easy to test. You just insert the coordinates from the sample into the code and you count things. And guess what? You get a huge deficit.
Wow.
And that's when you start saying, like, did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
And you start thinking, did I calculate the area of a circle on the sky correctly? And you start doing all kind of things just to test, did I screw up?
So, and for the audience, so you're basically showing that the Earth's shadow would not, obviously, a solar reflection wouldn't show up there.
Exactly.
So a real object, if it was in the way of the sun, you would get a solar reflection. A non-real object, you wouldn't get anything, right? And so what you're showing is that these are real solar reflections because there is a deficit in the Earth's shadow of these objects.
Exactly, because inside the Earth's shadow, if the sun doesn't reach, you're not going to get the reflection. While if you're outside the Earth's shadow, it's going to reflect sunlight.
So that's a remarkable finding because it shows that these are real objects. Because the idea that there are plate defects, that's not going to play favorites, as far as the Earth's shadow or not Earth's shadow. It's just going to be evenly distributed throughout. A plate defect is a plate defect.
Exactly. And it's possible that many of the transients we've been working with are plate defects because we only see one, that there's a deficit of 1/3.
Wow.
So yes, maybe there are a lot of plate defects in the samples, but you still have a 30% deficit or 30-35%. It still means that 30-35% of the objects we are working with come from solar reflections, and not any solar reflections, because these flashes that we see and these short flashes and not streaks, they are associated with things that are extremely flat and extremely reflective.
Wow.
Like mirrors. And that makes it more fun.
Like mirrors.
Mirrors, glass.
Yeah.
Not something, not a stone, not a rock.
Right.
Not ice.
And this is
not round, flat.
This is from the Palomar Observatory before we had satellites in space.
Yes.
So that's fascinating. And if you think about it, plate defects, again, would be you're going to have some margin of error due to plate defects, maybe like you said, 30-35%, but it's not going to be only, where the sun is. that makes no sense.
So even if you would have 80% of plate defects, you still would have a substantial fraction of the objects that seem to be real. And that's what counts. I would be happy if it would be 1%. But when you get 30-35% and you say, am I calculating it correctly? You almost hope for it.
At this point in the interview, you might be wondering about the fact that Beatriz is looking at the most prominent astronomical observatory in use at the time. So why wasn't this discovered earlier? And why haven't these findings been replicated? Well, a man who held just about every clearance in the book and ran the Harvard Observatory in the 1950s, who was also part of the Bureau of Public Standards, basically compiling a lot of the astronomical data known to the public in the 50s and 60s, was a guy named Donald Menzel. Dr. Donald Menzel came out swinging against UFOs. But thanks to Beatriz and others, we know the true story. He was even caught by his understudy, Dorrit Hoffleit, destroying astronomical plates at the Harvard Observatory.
And he helped the US Air Force to debunk the Washington 1952 flap.
Yep.
And 2 or 3 months after, he suddenly becomes the director of Harvard Observatory, and he destroys 1/3 of the photographic plates. And he doesn't ask, as I understand from the records, he doesn't ask the astronomers to select the plates. No, he asked his secretary to go and throw away 1/3 of the plates. And there's a woman, Dorrit Hoffleit, that has been telling about the story in her memoirs, and kind of he started revenging on her later too, for, as I understood it, for that she tried to protect some of the plates. He also threw away a number of the logbooks that are keeping the observations and what plates exist.
So you only have a handful of observatories in use at the time, and you have a national security state headed up by people like Don Menzel, tightly controlling the information disseminated to the public. It's not beyond belief to me then that a widespread cover-up could have occurred. So we've shown that these aren't plate defects, because plate defects don't move intelligently around based on the Earth's shadow. They also don't move intelligently around based on nuclear detonations occurring in the 40s and 50s. And if you're wondering just how ubiquitous the UFO nuclear connection actually is, check out my interview with the great journalist Robert Hastings, author of the book UFOs and Nukes, who's chronicled 167 Q-cleared nuclear base employees who have blown the whistle on UFOs showing up all over our nuclear installations. Roswell was the site of the most nukes in the US in 1947 at the time of the Roswell crash. And lest you think this is an American deep state psyop, you can go as far as Japan, where a town named Ino, which is right next to the Fukushima prefecture, has a mountain, Mount Sengan Mori, where UFOs constantly show up. Many of the townspeople are obsessed with UFOs. They have a museum on top of this mountain dedicated to UFOs. Ino is directly adjacent to the Fukushima prefecture and their civilian nuclear grid. In the 90s in Zimbabwe, over 60 schoolchildren all saw a UFO land and an alien descend out of the craft and telepathically speak to them. And where is this school's location?
And you know, an area of school that was near a uranium mining site.
That is right,
There
as far
you
as I
go.
understand.
So this is amazing because you've basically found pre-satellites in space, objects surrounding the Earth. How many of these transients did you find?
Different parts of the brain have different activities.